July 25, 1943, Rome. An Italian army officer named Marco Benedetti sits in a cafe near the Colosseum. He's 31, fought in North Africa, in Greece, in Russia. He's seen the Italian army collapse in the desert. He's seen Italian divisions freeze to death on the Don River. He's watched German officers treat Italian soldiers like incompetent children. Now, on this hot summer evening, he hears the news that changes everything. Mussolini has been arrested. The fascist Grand Council has voted him out. Il Duce, the man who'd led Italy for 21 years, is under guard. Around him, other officers talk in hushed voices. A captain he knows from the Greek campaign leans over and says what they've all been thinking. We backed the wrong horse. Marco nods. But what comes next? That's the question no one can answer. The reactions to this realization split along lines that reveal something profound about loyalty, survival, and what happens when your side starts losing. Some see opportunity. Some see catastrophe. Some see both at once. Lieutenant Giuseppe Romano, 26, from Milan, celebrates quietly with his friends. He never believed in fascism. His father was a socialist, arrested in 1925, spent 3 years in prison. Giuseppe joined the army because he had to, fought because he had no choice. Now, maybe it's over. We can make peace with the Allies, he tells his companions. The Americans, the British, they're not our real enemies. We'll switch sides, help them liberate Italy, and this nightmare ends. His optimism is real. He genuinely believes Italy can simply stop fighting Germany and everything will be fine. But 3 tables away, Major Carlo Ferretti, 38, from Naples, sees it differently. He's a career officer, 20 years in the army. He fought in Ethiopia, in Spain with the Condor Legion alongside the Germans. He's not a fascist believer, not really, but he's a soldier who understands reality. Switch sides, he mutters to his aide. You think the Germans will just let us walk away? You think they'll say, oh well, goodbye and good luck? We're about to find out what it's like to have the Wehrmacht as an enemy instead of an ally. In barracks across Rome, across Milan, across every Italian city, the news spreads. Enlisted men, conscripts who'd been drafted from farms and factories, react with pure relief. A private named Antonio Rossi, 22, from a village in Tuscany, writes to his mother that night, "Mama, maybe I'll come home soon. Maybe this war is ending. Maybe I won't have to go back to Africa or Greece or wherever they were going to send us next. Maybe I'll see you before winter." His letter survives in a family archive. He'll never see his mother again. The reactions split along predictable lines. The working-class conscripts want to go home. The career officers worry about what comes next. The few true fascist believers feel betrayed. But there's another division too. Those who fought alongside the Germans versus those who fought under German command. Sergeant Luca Conti, 29, from Genoa, served in the Afrika Korps alongside German units. They respected them, they were professional, effective, and they treated Italian soldiers as equals when they fought well. The Germans are our allies, he tells his squad. Whatever happens politically, we can't just betray them. We fought together, bled together. There's honor in that. His men look at him like he's insane. One private says, "Sergeant, with respect, fuck honor. I want to live." But in another unit, in another barracks, the view is opposite. Corporal Franco Moretti, 27, from Sicily, served under German operational command in Russia. He watched German officers send Italian soldiers on suicide missions. He watched German supply columns pass by freezing Italian troops without stopping. He watched Germans retreat with their equipment while Italians were left to die. The Germans treated us like shit, he tells anyone who'll listen. They blamed us for every defeat. They called us cowards. Now we're supposed to stay loyal to them? No, we owe them nothing. The regional differences matter too. Northern Italians, industrialized, more connected to Germany economically, tend to be more cautious about breaking with Berlin. Southern Italians, poorer, more suspicious of both Rome and Berlin, are more eager for the war to end on any terms. A lieutenant from Turin says, "My father's factory depends on German contracts. If we betray Germany, what happens to our economy?" A sergeant from Calabria responds, "Your father's factory? My father's a fisherman. This war has taken his sons and given him nothing. Let your factory burn. I want to go home." But everyone, regardless of region, class, or political belief, understands one thing. The Germans are still in Italy, and they're not leaving. Days pass. The new Italian government under Marshal Badoglio makes contact with the Allies, but publicly claims Italy will keep fighting alongside Germany. Everyone knows it's a lie. Everyone is waiting for the other shoe to drop. Marco Benedetti, the officer from Rome we met at the beginning, is assigned to a unit guarding a supply depot near Verona. German troops are all around. The German soldiers know something is happening. They're watching the Italians with suspicion. Marco watches them watching him. He thinks about what happens when the switch comes. Will it be organized? Will there be a clear moment when Italy changes sides, or will it be chaos? A German sergeant he's worked with for months approaches him. "Marco," the German says in decent Italian, "whatever happens, I hope we don't end up shooting at each other." Marco nods. "Me too, Hans." But both of them know that hope is probably futile. In Rome, in the corridors of power, Italian generals are negotiating with Allied representatives in secret. They're trying to arrange an armistice, a surrender, a way out. But they're also terrified of the Germans finding out before they're ready. The Germans have more troops in Italy than the Italian government can control. If the switch isn't timed perfectly, it could be a massacre.
For Italian soldiers in the field, stuck in Greece, stuck in the Balkans, stuck in southern France, the news from Rome creates a different kind of terror. They're surrounded by German units. If Italy switches sides, they'll be behind enemy lines instantly. Thousands of them, isolated, surrounded, with nowhere to go. A lieutenant in Athens writes in his diary, "If we betray Germany while I'm still in Greece, the Germans will kill us all before we can even surrender to the British. We're hostages to our own government's decisions." On September 8, 1943, 6:30 p.m., Marco Benedetti is eating dinner in the officers' mess in Verona when someone runs in and turns on the radio. Marshal Badoglio's voice crackles through the static. The Italian government has agreed to an armistice with the Allied forces. All acts of hostility against Anglo-American forces by Italian forces must cease everywhere. The room goes silent. Then everyone starts talking at once. Someone shouts, "Does this mean we're on the Allied side now?" Someone else says, "What about the Germans? What are we supposed to do about the Germans?" The commanding officer, a colonel who's been in the army since 1920, stands up and says, "I don't know. The message doesn't say. We're supposed to stop fighting the Allies, but it doesn't say if we're supposed to fight the Germans or not." Marco Benedetti has about 24 hours to decide which side he's on now. So does every Italian soldier in every garrison, every unit, every post across Italy and occupied Europe. The announcement gives them no guidance, no clear orders, no plan. It's chaos. Within hours, German forces begin disarming Italian units. In some places, the Italians surrender quietly, happy to be out of the war. In other places, they resist, brief firefights breaking out between yesterday's allies. In Verona, Marco's unit is surrounded by German tanks before dawn. The colonel tries to negotiate. The German commander is apologetic but firm. "Hand over your weapons. You'll be treated as prisoners of war, not as traitors. But you must disarm now." Most of the unit complies. They're exhausted. They don't want to die for a government that abandoned them without instructions. But Lieutenant Giuseppe Romano, the optimist from Milan who thought switching sides would be simple, refuses. "We're on the Allied side now," he tells the German officer. "You can't take us prisoner. We're co-belligerents." The German officer looks sad. "You're in northern Italy. The Allies are still in Sicily. You're surrounded by the Wehrmacht. You can be idealistic or you can be alive. Choose."
Romano chooses idealism. He and 30 soldiers try to break out, heading for the mountains to join what they hope will be resistance forces. Half of them are killed by German patrols within 3 days. Romano makes it to the mountains. He'll survive the war fighting with partisans, but he'll never see his family again. His father will die in 1944 in a German reprisal for partisan activity, shot along with 9 other civilians. Marco Benedetti chooses differently. He surrenders. He's shipped to a POW camp in Germany. He'll spend 2 years there, underfed, cold, but alive. After the war, he'll go home to Rome, marry, have children, run a small business. He'll never talk about the war much. When asked, he'll say, "I did what I had to do to survive." But the reactions split in more directions than just surrender or resist. In southern Italy, where Allied forces are actually present, Italian soldiers join them enthusiastically. An entire Italian division goes over to the Allied side and fights its way up the peninsula alongside British and American troops. They're treated with suspicion at first. The Allies don't trust them, but they fight, and some fight well, trying to prove they're not cowards, trying to prove Italy deserves to be treated as a co-belligerent rather than a defeated enemy. A private named Vittorio Amato, 24, from Rome, joins the new Italian co-belligerent army. He writes to his sister, "We're finally on the right side. We're fighting to liberate our own country from the Germans we used to call allies. It's strange. 6 months ago, I was fighting for Mussolini. Now, I'm fighting against the Germans who used to be our friends. But it feels right. This is what we should have been doing all along." But in northern Italy, occupied by German forces, other Italian soldiers make a different choice. They join the new Italian Social Republic, Mussolini's puppet state backed by Germany. Mussolini has been rescued by German commandos, installed in a villa on Lake Garda, given nominal authority over northern Italy. His new government needs soldiers. Thousands of Italian soldiers join. Some are true believers, fascists who never wavered. Others are opportunists. Still others are simply scared, believing the Germans will win and wanting to be on the winning side when they do. Sergeant Luca Conti, who believed in honor, in not betraying German allies, joins the Salo Republic forces. He'll fight against Italian partisans, against his own countrymen, for the next year and a half. In 1945, when everything collapses, he'll be captured by partisans and executed. His last words, according to witnesses, are, "I stayed loyal." The partisans who shoot him include men who'd served in his unit before the Armistice. Corporal Franco Moretti, who hated the Germans, deserts entirely. He goes home to Sicily, which is now under Allied control. He tells the Allied military government he wants to fight, but they have no use for him. He spends the rest of the war working in an Allied supply depot, loading trucks. It's boring, safe, and he survives. The Italian soldiers stuck in Greece, in the Balkans, face the harshest choices. The Germans round up entire divisions. Some are sent to POW camps, others are simply massacred. On the Greek island of Kefalonia, the Italian Acqui Division refuses to surrender to German forces. After a week of fighting, the Germans overwhelm them. They execute over 5,000 Italian soldiers after they surrender. A survivor later writes, "We fought our former allies for a week. Then they murdered us. I survived by hiding under corpses. I learned that switching sides in a war is more complicated than politicians make it sound." By October 1943, the situation has stabilized into a grotesque new reality. Southern Italy is occupied by the Allies, with Italian co-belligerent forces fighting alongside them. Northern Italy is occupied by the Germans, with the Salo Republic providing a fig leaf of Italian authority. Italian soldiers who'd served together 6 months ago are now shooting at each other. Brother fights brother. Father fights son. Fascist believers fight partisan resistors, both claiming to represent Italy's true interests.
A school teacher in Florence writes in her diary, "My husband fought in Africa alongside Marco's husband. Now Marco's husband has joined the partisans, and my husband has joined the Salo forces. If they meet, they'll try to kill each other. They used to be friends. They used to fight on the same side. Now Italy has split them. The war has split them. Politics have split them. Which one is the traitor? Both of them think it's the other."
The complexity deepens over the next year. Some Italian soldiers who initially joined the Germans desert to the partisans. Some who initially joined the partisans, exhausted by the brutal reprisals against civilians, surrender to the Germans. Some try to stay neutral, hiding in their villages, avoiding both sides, just trying to survive until someone wins. Marco Benedetti, in his German POW camp, hears rumors about what's happening in Italy. Italian fighting Italian, German reprisals, partisan attacks, Allied bombing. He wonders if he made the right choice surrendering. He's alive, he's not killing his countrymen, but he's not fighting for Italy's liberation either. Is survival enough, or should he have resisted? Should he have tried to escape? Should he have done something more than just give up? By 1945, as Allied forces push into northern Italy, as the Salo Republic collapses, as Mussolini flees and is captured and executed by partisans, the reckoning comes for everyone who made choices in September 1943. Those who joined the Allies are treated as heroes. Those who joined the Salo Republic are treated as traitors. Those who surrendered to the Germans and sat out the war in POW camps are treated with awkward silence. Not quite traitors, not quite heroes, just survivors. But here's what the official histories don't capture. The man who joined the Allies did so because he genuinely believed in fighting fascism, but also because the Allies were physically present where he was stationed and joining them was the safest option. The man who joined the Salo Republic did so because he believed in fascism, but also because he was in German-occupied territory and thought resistance would get his family killed. The man who surrendered and spent the war in a POW camp did so because he was surrounded by Germans, but also because he was exhausted and didn't believe anything was worth dying for anymore. None of their choices were simple. All of them were human. All of them were trying to survive an impossible situation created by a government that switched sides in the middle of a war without giving its soldiers any guidance about what came next. An Italian officer being interviewed in 1946 says, "You ask me what Italian soldiers said when they realized Germany was losing and Italy switched sides? We said 1,000 different things. Some said, 'Finally, we can stop this madness.' Some said, 'This is betrayal.' Some said, 'I don't know what to do.' Some said, 'I'm going home.' Some said, 'I'm joining the partisans.' Some said, 'I'm joining the Germans.' Some said nothing and just tried to survive. We were soldiers in an army that ceased to exist in a single evening. We were allies who became enemies overnight. We were ordered to stop fighting one enemy without being told whether to fight our former ally. And we had to make life and death decisions with no information, no guidance, and no time. What did we say? We said everything, because we were scared and confused and trying to figure out how to live through it. That confusion, that complexity, that's what's worth remembering. Italian soldiers in September 1943 weren't characters in a simple story about changing sides. They were human beings trapped between two armies, two ideologies, two possible futures, with no good options and no time to think. Some chose honor, some chose survival. Most tried to choose both, and succeeded at neither. They were men trying to navigate the collapse of everything they'd known, and their choices, right or wrong, brave or cowardly, were all profoundly human.